Good day, Humanistas. Welcome to the new school year 2020-2021, and you are enrolled in Learning Management System. I am Bernardo E. Guillermo III, your teacher for the subject Philippine Politics and Governance. But you can call me Sir Bori. And I've been teaching politics and governance for almost 7 years now. And I always like to discuss current issues and concerns and learn more about social and political activities. I also want to have discussion with you, your opinions, your ideas, your views about issues that are social and political in nature and that affect you as members of the society. So together, let us learn and become responsible citizens. With this, I will be your guide this semester for you to fully appreciate and understand the concept of politics and governance. So, what do you know about politics and governance? And the course subject, Philippine Politics and Governance. Actually, this is a specialized subject for human students, and it deals with the basic concepts in political science. And also, it will focus in the Philippine politics and government, and also with a special discussion of the 1987 Constitution. What is important here, however, is that students like you will find this subject a venue for intellectual discussion. Intellectual discussions on what? On matters of national and local concerns. And it also serves as a vehicle for social awareness. And it also gives the students a ground for an in-depth analysis of the present political entities that we have, its structures, and its flaws. Furthermore, students will have the basic knowledge of their rights and the remedies that they have in case of violation under our laws. Lastly, this course enables students to look at the process making or the processes in making up political systems that give rise to the nature of the body politic as we know it. Okay? Now, I am confident to say that you are all teachers, psychologists, lawyers, political scientists, politicians, journalists, and artists in the making. But there will be thick and thin, downfalls, circumstances, and disappointments as you go through reaching your dreams as humanistas. But what is important is that you are learning and gaining knowledge, skills, and values that are important in becoming a responsible citizen and professional. And keep this in mind. When you stumble and fall, rise up, fight, and become who you want to be, being a humanista. Okay? So, are you now ready to be politicized? Don't get me wrong with the term. When I say politicized, in the view of a political thinker, I mean you are now ready to indulge yourselves in politics and become rational thinkers, solution makers, conflict solvers in a society full of challenges, social issues, and political turmoil. Are you now ready? If yes, what then is your view or understanding about politics? Is it a negative term that implies undesirable events or actions done by those who are in powers? Or is it a concept that let us become aware of the processes and activities of the state? Don't worry, what you have in mind right now is correct. Because in politics, it involves all the activities that are related to the state and to the citizens of the state. And we will look into that in our discussion as we go through with the lesson. Okay? And another question is that, do you believe that politics is everywhere? Sa tingin nyo ba, pag sumakay kayo ng tricycle, there is politics in that? When you have conflicts inside your house with your siblings, meron bang politics doon? Don't worry, we will again present to you some situations that will prove politics is everywhere as we go on with our discussion. So for this week, this will be the learning competencies, and I'm expecting that at the end of our discussion, you should be able to explain the basic concepts of politics, discuss the etymology of politics, explain the different views of politics by political thinkers, and your own view later on. And also to differentiate politics as arena and politics as process. As you observe, there are terms here that are new to you. Bago lang yung mga terms para sa inyo, I think. Okay? And you will learn those concepts and terms as we go through. And you will be amazed of these terms. And you can actually apply that in everyday situation. Okay? Now, defining politics, when we give meaning to politics and the scope in the study of politics, this is not easy. Why? Because there is no single definition of politics. And there is also no universal agreement about the scope in the study of politics. In fact, there is a long list of rival or competing definitions of what constitutes politics and the criteria or standards by which to judge politics. What does that mean? In the view of one person, when we talk about politics, may differ from the view of other person. Okay? And when we give meaning to politics, it may be either a positive term for you, but a negative term for the other. Okay? So it is really difficult to give meaning or to define politics. However, there is a common recognition among the competing definitions of politics and the study of politics. That is, politics is ubiquitous. What do you mean by that? Politics is present everywhere, meaning there is politics in every kind or context of social interactions and relationships. To prove to you, we will have examples later. Okay? So remember, politics is ubiquitous. Even if there are competing definitions of politics, okay? Even if there are many ideas and concepts and opinions about the term politics, one thing is for sure, that politics is present everywhere. Okay? Now let us talk about the etymology of politics. To further deepen our understanding of politics, let us first discuss the etymology of politics. Okay? Actually, the word politics came from the Greek word polis. And I think you have an idea about the Greek word polis, okay? Which refers to the Greek city-state. Okay? And, sino bang hindi makakaalala sa movie na 300? Ha? Yan. Now, using the etymology of politics, we can discern that politics refers to the government. This is probably the reason why some scholars define politics as the art of government. And this is not wrong. Okay? This is not wrong. In fact, most people would look at politics at the first instance. When the word politics comes to the mind of a person, okay, most people would look into politics as something that the government does. Whatever the government does and whatever the people do in relation with the government, that is politics. Okay? Okay. So be conscious that while there is politics in every kind or context of social interaction, the indicators or appearances of politics are not the same. That is why I'm presenting to you the dual characteristics of politics. Okay? Number one, politics can be manifest, loud, and visible. And the second one is that politics can be latent, subtle, and discreet. Now let us talk first about politics that is being manifested, loud, and visible. When can we say that politics is loud or visible? Okay? Actually, there is an obvious politics when lawmakers debate intensely over a bill. Like for example, the bill that they are trying to pass now, okay, that will allow death penalty in the Philippines. Okay? And when lawmakers are debating intensely about this bill, it is manifested. Politics is being manifested, obviously. And it is loud and visible. Okay? But how about politics as subtle or discreet? Politics can also be silent. Okay? When we pay more than what is necessary for goods and services that we purchase, there is subtle or discrete politics into that. When we accept rules that we are not even aware of how they were made, or when we comply without necessarily understanding why, politics there is latent, subtle, and discrete. Okay? How about you? Can you give an example or situation wherein politics is being manifested or politics is being subtle and discreet? Okay? Now, we can also understand politics by differentiating a narrow interpretation and a broad interpretation of politics. Okay? And now, a narrow interpretation of politics is where politics happens, the venue, and it is labeled as the arena approach to politics. Okay? This approach can be best understood if we acknowledge that politics only happen within the formal institutions of the state. It is a narrow interpretation because it limits politics to the state and all its instrumentalities and related institutions. Okay? A narrow interpretation of politics because it limits also into the hierarchy of offices, laws, and policies of the state. So there is limitation. A narrow interpretation of politics that must go beyond, okay, the formal institutions of the state. Like, for example, an arena approach to politics also covers activities and actions that are sanctioned by the state, like elections, okay, which serve as the mechanism whereby citizens get the chance to be involved in the election of individuals who will hold public office. Okay? And ideally, when citizens vote in elections, they exercise their rights as well as their duty as a citizen. But how does election an example of a narrow interpretation of politics? Because it limits to the formal institutions of the state. Okay? Like for example, when the government provides services to the people, that is a narrow interpretation of politics because it is in the formal institutions of the state. It does not go beyond that institution of the state. Okay? Now, politics, in its narrow arena interpretation, then is desirable politics. Why? Because we see politics and the activities related to it either done or executed by the government or the people or a certain social group or movement are within the boundaries of legality or rightfulness. For example, the state holds elections for the purpose of forming a government that will provide a link between the citizens and the state. Okay? And elections also apply or supply legitimacy to a government to create and enforce laws that will benefit the people. Not only the people, but the community and the society as a whole. Okay? So the narrow interpretation of politics, therefore, is the interpretation of politics that is legal and within the boundaries of rightfulness. Okay? So, mali pala yung pag sinabi nating politics, negative term agad. Okay? Because in the narrow interpretation of politics, we view politics as a formal, legal, just, and rightful politics. Okay? So that's the narrow interpretation of politics. Now, how about the other one? The second interpretation of politics is a broad interpretation of politics, where politics happens inside and outside the legal framework, and it is labeled as the process approach to politics. If the narrow interpretation of politics limits itself to the legal framework and institutions of the state, a broad interpretation of politics, on the other hand, does not only limit on the legal framework, but also outside the legal framework of the state. And it is called as the process approach to politics. Okay? So politics in this sense is not limited to formal political institutions, but extends to include other institutions within the society, such as the family, the church, the private sectors, the civil society, and other parts of the society. Meaning, it provides a comprehensive view of politics. It goes beyond what the narrow arena approach offers in order to understand politics. Okay? Yan. Now, politics in its broad or process interpretation does not only focus on elections and various legal means of citizen participation and representation, like referendum, elections, people's initiative, okay? But politics in its broad sense also include organized protest, rebellion, and other activities that are outside the constitutional and legal framework. Okay? But as you observe, the first set of activities like elections and various legal means of citizens' participation, whether directly or indirectly, is being sanctioned. Meaning, the first set of activities are being limited by the state because it only limits itself to the legality and formality that the state may offer. Okay? While the second set of activities like organized protest, rebellion, and other means that are outside the legal framework aim to challenge the power of the state. Okay? So, the broad interpretation of politics, therefore, will really tell us that politics does not only limit itself to the activities of the government, but it includes all the sectors of the society, even the means of challenging the power of the state. Okay? Like, for example, coup d'etat, rebellion, insurgency, even terrorist acts, when they challenge the power of the state, it includes in the broad interpretation of politics. I hope you get it. Now, as Adrian Lefwitz argued, that politics comprises all the activities of cooperation and conflict. Okay? So, this is Adrian Lefwitz. The process approach then puts superior on the activity of governing or governance. Okay? That is how decisions are made and executed for the society. The question is, who will decide? Obviously, decisions are made by the formal institutions, okay, after considering its interaction with the informal institution. So, politics then, as a broad interpretation, will also look into the interaction of the formal institution, the government, okay, and the informal institutions, the society, the civil movement, the NGOs, religious organizations, okay? And when formal and informal institutions interact together to create a certain situation that will affect the society as a whole, is a politics in its broad sense. Okay? Next, let us discuss about politics in the view of political scientists, analysts, and professors. Now, this is David Easton. And according to him, politics is the authoritative allocation of values. Okay? It is the authoritative allocation of values. And since the government has authority, then the one who can use politics is the government. Okay? That's according to David Easton. Now, how about the view of Harold Laswell? Okay? According to him, politics is who gets what, when, and how. This would refer them to those people who have authority and power. Basically, those people who have authority and power can decide who gets the resources, when they get it, and how they get it. Okay? Hence, the government and the officials, both elected and appointed, are the ones who can use politics. It is obvious because they are the people who are in power. They are the people who have the authority and power. Okay? And since they have that authority and power, they can get what politics may offer. They can get it whenever they do political activities. And how? By doing political activities. Okay? Okay. Now, although the above mentioned concept of politics is true, that politics refers to the activities of the government, it can still be challenged. Okay? The reason to challenge it is that According to postmodernists, if politics is limited only to the government, it will be a reductionist conception, meaning it is limited only to few, okay? Where in fact, it must encompass all. The government, for example, the people, the social groups, the religious groups, the renegades, the rebels, the lovers like you, mga may boyfriend at girlfriend dyan, okay? The loner, the single, even the heartbroken. Ito yung sinasabi nating sana all. Ha? Sana all. Because politics is not a reductionist approach according to postmodernist thinkers. They believe that politics is everywhere. Meaning politics can be seen in the society and the state, particularly the government and the interaction of the government and the citizens. Okay? So politics is everywhere according to postmodernism. Okay? Now, in order to appreciate and believe that politics is really present everywhere, let us look into some instances or situations where we observe and experience the presence of politics. Okay, first one, in a circle of friends. Okay, when can we say and how do we know if politics is present among friends? Okay, first, actually friendship can become political in many aspects. Remember that. Friendship can become political in many aspects. Okay? In a group of peers, there will always be a possibility of conflict among them. Okay? And how conflict arises? When one person may not agree with the other because it opposes his interest or wants or belief. Okay? Although it can be assumed that a group of friends may have an aggregate interest, it will still be possible that they will clash on certain issues. Okay? I hope hindi naman kayo kagaya niyan, na kapag may hindi pagkakaintindihan, you go physically. Ha? Hindi mong pag nag-away kayo sa grupo, mayroong manunulsol, sige nga, hawakan mo yung tenga niya kung matapang ka. Di ba? Ganyan kayo? But in politics, whenever conflicts arise, there is a need for compromise. Okay? Yan. So, in a circle of friends, when compromise happens because of a conflict, politics is being manifested. Okay? Because there is the term compromise. Okay? To resolve conflict, to solve issues. Okay? So hence, conflict will always arise. Politics is needed here to resolve the conflict. Okay? And to have a win-win solution for the conflict. Now, another is the church. Okay? Although there is a wide agreement on the separation of the church and the state, if you are aware of the 1987 Constitution, under Article 2, okay, Declaration of Principles and State Policies, makikita natin doon that there is really a provision that tells us that there is a separation of the church and the state. But at least, in the context of the Philippines, okay, the church not meddling into political affairs, the church cannot deny that there is politics inside it. How's that? Let us look into the structure. Okay? The structure of the Catholic Church and other churches can be juxtaposed to the structure of the state. Okay? Parang parehas, there is hierarchy of officials. Okay? Like for example, the Pope as the highest official of the church, of the Catholic Church. And the Pope himself is a head of state, the Vatican state. Okay? In addition, the simple situation inside the church during a mass would show hierarchy. Okay? The priest or the minister would have some kind of influence to the congregation. So the church then also exhibits some kind of political power that can be likened to that of the state. Okay? Now, situation number 3. Simple everyday objects. Okay? Let us look at a classroom. Inside the classroom, the usual content would be chairs, okay, for students, and a table and chair for the teacher. But what is so political about this object? Okay? Imagine you are inside the classroom. How can we say that politics is present inside the classroom? By just looking into the simple everyday objects that we can see inside the classroom, disregarding the people inside the classroom. Okay? So what is so political about this object? Now let us talk about the chair. Diba? Napapansin nyo, usually chairs in a classroom have desks, and most often, the desks are at the right side of the chair. Tama ba? Imagine nyo, nasa 8th building kayo ngayon. Nakaupo, nagdi-discuss tayo ng polgo. Usually, ba, the desk of the chair is located at the right side. Okay? And since it is assumed that students are right-handed, okay? But what is so political about this? At first glance, there is nothing political about the design of the armchair. Ba? However, if you think deeper, you are going to realize that this kind of design may discriminate left-handed people. Okay? May discriminate left-handed people. But how is this so political? Bakit sinasabi natin may politics doon? Kung ganun yung design ng chair. Alam nyo ba? Ha? So, this can be an example of the tyranny of the majority. Aware ba kayo sa terms na yan? Tyranny of the majority. Whatever explanation you believe in, the point is that the politics of the armchair is real. That most of the time, okay, what is being followed is the decision of the majority. Okay? So there is discrimination among the minority. Okay? So there is politics in that armchair. Ano, napapaisip na kayo, no? Again, I repeat, whatever explanation you believe in about the design of the chair inside the classroom, okay? The point is that the politics of the armchair is real. Totoo yun. Okay? And it must be addressed to avoid discrimination. Sino ba sa inyo dyan ang left-handed? Tapos ang naibigay ng upuan sa inyo ay may desk na nakalocate sa right side of the chair. Diba? Nag-struggle kayo, especially when you are writing or drawing something that are related to the activities inside the classroom. Okay? But in a deeper understanding of the politics of the armchair, nakikita talaga natin that there is discrimination in the society. And this must be addressed. Okay? Now, can you cite other everyday objects that you think politics is present? Okay? You can use our discussion in LMS to cite your examples of everyday objects that you think politics is present. And I will be looking forward into that to know your examples, okay, so that we can easily exchange ideas when we talk about politics. Okay, so we can give a lot more situations wherein politics is really ubiquitous. And it is unquestionably true that politics is not limited to the activity of the government. With this, understanding politics should be in a broader manner. Okay? So let us dissect politics. Now, here is a definition of politics that can serve as our starting point. Okay? That politics is a human activity that deals to a certain extent with power, conflict, and decision making. Okay? As Aristotle said, we are after all political beings. We are political animals. Okay? Now, the first thing that we have to establish when we talk about politics is that it is purely human activity. Why? Because human beings have rationality. Okay? And when we say rationality, it refers to our capacity, our ability to think and reason out. Okay? And hence, such ability is used by human beings to determine what is right and wrong and make decisions. Okay? With our rationality, we can rationalize, we can think, and determine what is right and wrong before making decisions. So it is a human activity. Okay? Now, in the case of ants, they have their queen, drones, workers, and soldiers. In short, they have division of labor. Can this be considered rationality? No. This is just based on their instinct because each ant cannot deviate from its role. They cannot think for themselves. Okay? Unlike humans who can think for themselves and can control their instinct. That is according to Sigmund Freud. Okay? And through our rationality, we do not commit anything against society's rules. If ever we do commit mistakes, we know that we would face consequences. Okay? So, rationality then is a gift. Okay? And this gift is what makes humans different from animals. Animals only follow their instinct. Although humans have instinct too, but it is dominated by rationality. Okay? Although sometimes we become irrational because we allowed ourselves to be what? Dominated by our instinct, our aggressiveness, rather than our rationality as human beings. Okay? And now, how is rationality related to being political? How is rationality related to being political? The answer can be seen in the work of Aristotle. And do you know that Aristotle is the father of political science? Okay. And we can see in his book, The Politics, about being political. Okay. And in this work, Aristotle surveyed numerous city-states of Greece to come up with a typology of government. Okay. And this typology of government forms will be discussed later on in the next chapters of our discussion. Okay, that's not Aristotle, huh? This is Aristotle. Okay. And in his book, The Politics, he discussed the relationship of rationality and politics. He believed that rationality is the starting point of politics. Now, to Aristotle, human beings are not only rational, but also teleological. Okay? What does that mean? Human beings, aside from being irrational, okay, aside from being rational, human beings have telos also. And what is the telos? That is the goal that he wants to achieve. And the telos of man is to achieve happiness. Diba? Lahat tayo, you wanted to be happy. And according to Aristotle, yan yung pinaka-ultimate goal ng tao, to achieve happiness, to become actualized. Okay? But, according to Aristotle, to achieve the telos, to achieve the goal, to achieve the happiness, it would compel a person to interact with another human being. Okay? And human must use his or her rationality to achieve the goal. And he or she will realize that to achieve the telos, he must have to make relationship with other human beings. So it would compel man really to interact with another human being. Okay? And because of that, man will transition from being a rational being to becoming a social being. As they say, no man is an island. Now, in that situation then, man will interact with others because he cannot do everything alone. Okay? And he needs the help of others so that they can all have a chance to achieve happiness. Okay? So man will form his own group with other individuals with the same goal, but after some time, man's rationality will again dictate that a small group will not be enough to achieve happiness. Okay? There is a need then for the group to interact with another group to form a bigger group, daming group so that they can do more. Okay? So that they can do more and have a better chance of achieving their telos. Okay? Lalong-lalo na ngayon, we cannot deny the fact na dumadami ang bilang ng populasyon. Diba? And with that numbers of population, madaming naghahangad ng kaligayahan. Because that is the ultimate goal according to Aristotle. Tama ba siya? Well, in my opinion, yes. Okay? Because we wanted all to become happy. But we cannot achieve that alone. We must have to interact with other people. Okay? We must have to share to other people on how we are going to achieve the telos. Okay? Now, however, okay, because a group of people interacting to another group of people, there will come a point wherein the group will be too big enough. Masyado nang malaki, given the increase of population. Okay? So there is already a need for some leadership of governance. Okay? There is a need to establish leadership and governance in the society. Kasi nga, madami na. Mahirap nang kontrolin. At iba-iba na tayo ng pamamaraan achieving our happiness. Okay? Therefore, the state is created by the natural rationality of man. And therefore, transforms man from being a social being to what Aristotle called a political being, a political animal, or zoon political. Okay? Now, Aristotle believed that the state is the ultimate organization that helps man achieve his ultimate goal. Okay? Aristotle then is implying that man can never achieve happiness without the state. And if we apply it in our times, that claim of Aristotle remains correct. Okay? we as individuals cannot really do everything alone. We need other people, our friends, family, relatives, those who are close to us. We wanted happiness. Okay? And we need other people and the state because the state can provide us with public goods and services, okay, like security and social services that we cannot achieve without the state. So again, as Aristotle is implying, man or man can never achieve happiness without the state. Okay? Later, we will talk about the state, okay? And what are the elements of the state that are very important in order for an individual to achieve happiness. So now, let us look about politics as power. Okay? Actually, power is a very important element in politics. We cannot really talk about politics without regarding power. Okay? And power is related also to authority and legitimacy. Don't worry, we will have a discussion to that later on. Okay? But according to Hans Morgenthau, he viewed politics as the struggle for power. This is very true, as you observe in our government today. Why politicians run? Okay? Let us just say they want to serve the people. Okay? But there is this desire for them, for power. Ba? So Hans Morgenthau then is implying that all political activities have something to do with power. And individuals who are part of a political community aim for more power. Yan. So to know more about Hans Morgenthau and his scholarly works on power, you can read his book. Okay? What's the title of the book? The Balance of Power. Maganda yan. Basahin nyo. Okay? What is power then? Power is the ability of a person to make someone do something that someone would otherwise not do. In short, power is an ability to make a person do something that that person does not want to do. For example, wala tayong lumayo inside your classroom. Okay? The teacher has power over the students. If the teacher, for example, will require the students to read numerous pages of readings, to make case analysis, okay, the students will have no choice but to do it or fail grades. Okay? So, power then is really important aspect of politics. Now, on the government level, the government has the power to legislate. When we say the power to legislate is the power of the government, particularly the legislative branch of government, to create laws. Okay? They can make policies or laws so that they can influence, they can control, or they can limit the behavior of the people in the society. Okay? Under the sovereignty of the state. Yan. For example, the anti-selfie law. What if the government would pass a law that would criminalize people taking selfies in public? Okay? And the reason of the government in passing this law is that, like that, the government may use the rising crimes in relation to people being victimized in social media. Okay? Kailan lang ba yung ni-record niya yung sarili niya? Diba? To have an extreme challenge of hanging in the roof of a building, tapos hindi niya nahawakan, mahulog. Ha? So what if the government will use that in passing a bill? Okay? Not allowing people to have selfies in public. Of course, a lot of people who are part of this social media or this social media culture would react negatively. Diba? However, since this is a legislation, batas na ito, okay, the people would not have any choice. If they would want to question the law, they should undergo the due process required by the law. Okay? Yan. So basically, the examples given above are clear illustrations of how power works. And in relation to power, the concept of authority, legitimacy, influence, and even coercion are important in understanding power better. So we will have a separate discussion of these concepts at a later time. Okay? Now, how about politics as conflict? Actually, conflict will always be part of politics. Lalong-lalo na ngayon, di ba? Yung awayan ng dalawang grupo. Yung DDS, yung yellow tards na sinasabi nila. Ha? Conflict will always be part of politics because in the first place, it is part of human life. But why conflict happens? Okay? Bakit nangyayari kasi yung mga ganitong klase ng conflict? Conflicts arise because of human rationality. Since we are rational, we have our own interest. Tama? We have our own interest and this cannot be avoided since human beings use their rationality in different ways. Okay? So the problem is that we have different perspectives on what happiness is. Okay? Diba? Sabi natin kanina, humans have telos. Okay? And we use our rationality to attain this telos. Pero the problem is that we have different perspectives and we have different means to achieve happiness. Okay? That's why conflicts arise. Now, how do we resolve conflicts like this? Okay? By using politics to resolve it. Okay? Because politics involve the concept of compromise, which would refer to both parties meeting halfway. Meaning that the two parties who are in conflict must sacrifice a part of their interest so that they would come up with an agreement that is beneficial to both parties. Okay? And to come up with a compromise, the conflicting parties can resolve this among themselves. Like for example, in a circle of friends, okay? Yung isa gusto niya mulang gumala kayo. Pero yung isa gusto mag-review kasi malapit na ang quiz or ang exam. Ha? Tapos sasabihin ng isa, parang hindi ka naman tunay na kaibigan. So nangyayari na yung conflict inside or among the friends, among the members. Okay? So how will you solve the conflict? By using politics. Okay? And using the concept of compromise. Okay? And the resolution of the conflict is very important. Okay? So that society will live in a harmonious way. Kasi kung puro conflict na lang nangyayari, but there is no compromise, okay, the society will be in chaos. I tell you, the society will be in chaos and disorder will happen. Ang kawawa dito, yung mga kababaihan, matatanda, wala nang lakas para ipaglaban ang kanilang karapatan. That is why politics must involve compromise in solving conflicts. Okay? Yan. And lastly, politics and decision making. When individuals make decision, Di ba? Napakahalaga to consider all the possible alternatives. Okay? Meaning, to make a good decision, an individual must weigh, kailangan nyo mulang timbangin lahat ng alternatives to come up with the best decision. At nangyari na yan sa inyo. When deciding on something, di ba? Dami yung mga choices and possible alternatives before you decide on what to do. Okay? So meaning, being rational, humans use their rationality also to make decisions. And according to rational choice theory, human beings make decisions based on their utility, since they are utility maximizers. What does that mean? That means that it is assumed ba or assumed, okay, that a decision that an individual makes, okay, is the most utility maximizing decision. Halimbawa, when it comes to choosing a product, for example, between Colgate and Close Up or Happy, bakit pinipili mo ang Colgate? Kasi sa tingin mo, it will make the product produce the best result in you. Pero pare-parehas naman itong mga toothpaste, di ba? Pero we will look into that. How humans are considered utility maximizers. Maganda din pag-usapan yan. When we decide, bakit tinitingnan natin kung ano yung benefit na nakukuha natin? Di ba parang selfish yun? Well, di ba? Pag-usapan natin yan later on as we go through with our lesson. Okay? Another example is that a voter will vote for a candidate who he thinks will represent his interest. Tama nga naman. Why should I vote for a candidate that will not really give or fight for my interest? Okay? Why should I vote for a candidate that will not really make the society a better place? Yun naman ang gusto natin, di ba? Okay? For a politician to really give services to the people. In the context of government, decision-making is different from individuals or groups. Napakabigat para sa government na mag-decide. Okay? Malalaman nyo yan pag nasa gobyerno na kayo later on. Because the state cannot simply rely on any individual and group interest. Okay? The government must consider the interest of all social organizations in society. Not just the interest of a few, but all the interest of all the members of the society. Okay? Meaning, it must be able to balance the interest so that they can come up with a decision that considers the common good. An example to this is giving budget to the different sectors of the society. Napakahirap nun for the government to decide. Diba? Sino dapat ang bibigyan ng mas malaking pondo at bakit mas maliit dito sa parte na to? Okay? I tell you, the government is doing yung lahat ng kanilang kailangan gawin at yung kakayanan nila para ma-push through lahat ng services that are being provided by the government to the people, okay, by looking and considering all social organizations in our society. Kaya kung minsan, reklamo tayo ng reklamo, pero hindi naman natin alam kung paano ba yung workings, yung processes na ginagawa ng gobyerno natin to give us and provide us services. Diba? Social services, healthcare services, na makakatulong sa pagpapabuti ng ating lipunan. Okay? So, decision-making on the government level is not an easy task because they must be able to balance all the interests. Eh, ilang interest yan? Sa dinami-dami ng tao sa Pilipinas, for example, at magkakaiba tayo ng interest. Okay? Masakit sa ulo yan ng gobyerno. Yan. Now, the difficulty of the decision made by the government is that there is a possibility that it will contradict with the interest of some social organizations. Ang dami na nating nakita that the decision of government is not good to other groups. Kaya nagwewelga, nagrarally. There are decisions of the government na sa tingin natin palpak. That is why we are airing our grievances and opinions against the government. At hindi yun masama. Because that is part of our freedom. Okay? But had you ever asked yourself, naging solusyon ka din ba sa problemang kinakaharap ng ating gobyerno? Diba? Because the solution to this is to make the decision-making process democratic. Hindi naman basta-basta magde-decide ang gobyerno without balancing or weighing all the factors that are needed, okay, in making decision. At yung decision na yan is deliberative. Meaning to say, it had undergone processes so that we could come up with a decision wherein most people, if not everyone, are involved. The question is, involved ka ba in looking solutions to the problems? Kasi the government cannot do it alone. Kailangan din tayo ng gobyerno. Okay? So politics here, as decision making, is also important for us to realize kung ano nga ba yung nagagawa natin para sa taong bayan. Okay? Member ka man ng government officials man ang mga kakilala mo, okay? Whether you are pro-government or anti-government, you must also have to ask yourself, did I contribute to the problems? Or did I contribute solutions? Okay? In order to solve the problem of the society. Okay? Yan. So now that you learned a lot about politics, you are now ready to answer the activity given to you. Good luck and God bless. Okay? You can also have an advanced reading about government and governance, and also the origins and evolution of political science. See you next week for a more indulging and challenging discussion. Again, hashtag get political. Okay? See you soon. Bye-bye. God bless, but do not forget to answer the activity given to you. Okay? Bye-bye.